as time flies by, you'll open up your eyes wide. You feel it's gonna go your way. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. Hey, 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 it's a brand new day.
Welcome back to Marbella Now. My name is Nicole King, and this week we've come again to Aloha, one of the most established areas in Marbella, where you can find Velvet, this fabulous restaurant, piano bar, lounge. One of the only places in Marbella with a beautiful piano and a pianist to accompany while you dine. And like in Marbella, you never know who you're going to meet. I bumped into the lovely Hannah Lopez from Talk Radio Europe last week, Lisa Marie Robinson, a fabulous yoga diva from the beach, and so many people come to Velvet. This area is very popular. It's a great place to come out in an evening. I hope to see you here too. In the meanwhile, let's get started with this week's show.
Hey, hey.
Tony Bryant might not have a face that you recognise, but I bet you've read many of his columns in the Sur newspaper. Welcome to Marbella Now. Pleasure to actually meet you.
And you too, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's funny because you don't realise how often we read a publication and you like what's written, but very rarely do we actually look to see who the article's written by. But when I heard that we were going to be welcoming Tony to the programme, I was like, oh gosh, this is a name I do know. You love music, you follow all the charities, and you're very into Spain.
Yes, very much so. If I might just say about the newspaper, one of the things I hate is when they put my picture at the top of the article, so you don't often get it because I normally take it out. But yes, I've been here 24 years. I was a musician in England. I grew up in the 80s on the fantastic music scene that existed in London at the time. I grew up with punk rock and everything.
Really, I like punk rock, and I used to like to go up to Chelsea and
oh wow, Kings Road,
and hang out, and it was fascinating.
Yeah.
So you were one of them that I used to go and look at.
Yes, I had hair then, you see, so I used to dye it, and my mother said that's why it all fell out.
I was thinking the same thing as a mother. It's like, see, you don't listen.
Well, we used to bleach it every week for a different colour. But no, I grew up on the music scene. I was quite lucky because I was in a Tuppenny Halfpenny bands, but we got to do some fabulous support.
What was the name of your band?
They were called Paris Gun, but we actually did a mini tour with The Clash. We supported Ian Dury. We got on all these wonderful gigs because of our singer was quite well known in the music business, so we used to get to see gigs. So that's how I started. When I arrived in Spain, '94, the music scene had died in England. I wanted to concentrate on writing because that's always been a passion. The music always seemed to get in the way, and so I came here thinking, well, I'll have a year, I'll sort myself out, get my writing started and go back to England, and I never did.
Any of the punk rocker still left in you?
I think so, yeah, you never get rid of that.
Once a punk rocker, always a punk rocker?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it we grow up, you know, and when we're anarchists, when we're 16 and that, we think we're going to change the world, but of course it doesn't happen. But there's still a part of me. I love the raw energy that punk rock had, and I love the fact that it gave people like me, I mean, I was 17 when punk rock exploded. It gave us a chance for us to feel like we could be someone. Whereas before you had to be Paul McCartney or Mick Jagger to be on telly. Punk rock came and just changed the whole face of music, so it was a great time.
The YouTube of its day, opening up the world to be able to be more expressive.
Yes, I mean today the kids have got it easy because to make a record you only need a laptop, but we used to, I don't know, we'd spend a week in the studio doing a demo tape.
And such fun doing it.
Yes, it was great. It was good because I think when you're in a band you're like a family. So you spend so much time with each other. I mean, there was 5 of us travelled around the country in an old transit van, as you did, sleeping in the back, and it was a good time. But I think I got to a stage, I was 30 when I came here, or 32 I think, and I'd had enough then, being the rock star sort of thing, the fun had worn off. So.
A time and a place for everything, no? We grow up and tastes change.
I mean, just to be honest, Nicole, I've still got friends in England who still have their hair like Maurice. I mean, I'm mid-50s, and they're the same age, and they're still punk rockers, you know. It's like the Teddy Boy scene and the mods, you know. There's always a few that are still around, still enjoy what they do, and fair play to them, you know. Why not?
We're very lucky because on the coast we have a lot of new, raw musical talent. A lot of people come here, a lot of performers, as Mel Williams says, nearly famous, you know, travelled and performed with legends in their own right, and yet end up playing in Marbella, which there can be a lot of worse things, because for the community that lives here, you enjoy promoting that talent. Is it because you feel that empathy of knowing what it's like?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about working for the newspapers. I do get to meet loads and loads of musicians and artists and all sorts of people. And like you say, some of them have been gigging on the coast for years and years and years. And then you sit down and speak and find out what they actually did before and who they'd played with. And it's fabulous. And I obviously, the younger talent, I've always sort of tried to promote them as best I can, because there are some very good musicians on the coast, very good artists, not just musicians. There's artists of all sorts, and they don't always get the publicity they need, and some are very, very good. So just my little bit in the newspaper, if it gets them a gig or gets them somebody turn up to one of their gigs, then that's great, you know. I'd like to do a lot more for them, but it's you can't look after everybody, you know, but there is a lot of good talent on this coast.
We were saying before that you've been here since 1994, and we often comment that those of us who arrived before 94 speak Spanish, and those after 94 not so much, if at all. And it came up that although a lovely Tony's here from 94 on that cusp, you kind of haven't really got a grip, but your passion for Spain itself, I think, compensates, because you love Andalusia, the history of Andalusia, and your latest book, the fourth book, which is no mean feat, is, I think, a really insightful peek into the whole history that brought us where we are today, and why Marbella on the Costa del Sol is like it is.
Yeah, I mean, the Andalusia got fabulous and interesting history, you know, and one of the, I got into flamenco many years ago when I came out with being a musician. It was almost inevitable that I would come across flamenco, and that was the thing that started it, because, as we just said, when I came, I was a musician. I didn't really like the musical scene in 1994. My Spanish was atrocious, and some friends took me to see some flamenco. To cut a very long story short, I was fascinated with it. And I did start to learn Spanish, because in that circle, in that sector, it's not only you need to learn Spanish, you need to learn Andalusian. And when you're mixing with the gypsy community, then you need to learn that as well. So, you know, the Spanish in Andalusia is totally different than it would be in Madrid. So I did try to learn, but it was a learning process all the way through. And while I was researching flamenco, all these things kept popping up, little legends and myths, and of course I come from a Romany background. My maternal family were Romany travellers, and so I was brought up in a very superstitious family. We believed and I still do, some of them, every superstition under the sun.
So you don't walk under ladders and all these kind of things.
You know, hat on the bed and all this. And my mother and my grandmother lived in fear of these things, so it had an effect on us as kids. And of course, when I came here, I thought, wow, this is just like being at my grandmother's house, because of all these, and the gypsy community were wonderful, because they just fed me so much information.
They're so warm, they're so open.
Yeah, you know, Nicole, one of the things people ask to me is, oh, how was you accepted by the gypsies? Because there's still a stigma attached to the word gypsy. And even though there are some bad gypsies, like there's some
but
bad
there's some bad everything.
Yeah, in general, in Andalusia, they've integrated into society, and I can count among some of my best friends here are gypsies. So that's really where the new book, I sort of branched away from music, and when it's called Andalusia Between Dream and Reality. And it's based on very briefly, on the history of Andalusia, and or certainly the parts of the history that have had a big effect, like the arrival of the Moors and the Inquisition and all these things that have affected Andalusia. And there is just a mountain of legend and myth. So that was what got me. Well, it was more of a bit of fun to start with the book. It was more for my own personal use, my own personal pleasure. But it does trace the history of Andalusia, and the book is in two halves. So the first half is basically a quick trip through the history, the important parts. And then the second half of the book is 20 legends. And I went out of my way to try to find things that English-speaking people might not have heard before, because there's a lot of stuff we know for Semana Santa and you know. But I dug very deep, and I went to churches and looked through their Libro de Functiones for interesting people, and I think I came up with 20 quite interesting, and some of it is based on actual history. It's not all legend, which is right or which is wrong. It's very hard to talk. But if you look at the history of Andalusia, 50% of it is made up with myth and legend that nobody can really say whether it's true or not. So that's the bit that captivated me. And of course, Andalusia, I think it has this, if you open up to it, it has the ability to totally take over. And I've been here, I mean, nearly a quarter of a century. So it's my home, and I love it. There's nothing I don't like about the place, apart from the weather we've had the last week.
Do you think that people don't appreciate enough how privileged we are to be every day living history, and we're so busy with beach beds, suntan cream, and oh yeah, party, 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 that we're missing out on such a huge, not only the culinary delights of Andalusia, but as you say, everywhere you go has its own little story, its own traditions, their own little town ferias that they celebrate in different ways with their different saints and what have you. I mean, there really is so much to everything that goes on.
Well, I think it boils down to what you just said about people not learning Spanish, because if you live here and you don't speak even the basic of Spanish, you'll miss out on so much. Because, you know, once you start, and as you full well know, once you start to integrate into Spanish society, you're welcomed into it. So it's like going to the theatre to watch the opera. If you don't understand anything about opera, then it's just a noise, and you're missing a lovely, lovely part. But if you understand even just the most basic, you can enjoy it more. So if you take the time to learn a little bit of Spanish and start to find out, instead of just going to the feria, you know, to get drunk and go on the rides, find out what it's about. Get involved with the people, because I just found them the most interesting people I've ever met.
And coming up, as Tony mentioned, Semana Santa, the Holy Week, Easter, is just around the corner. Now, this can be terrifying for those who have never been to a procession, because for us it could look like the Ku Klux Klan, but do not panic. It is just the typical processions, and again, there's been so much going on. You can go to the Marbella Azul website to check out the full details. They always translate everything and give you all the routes to go through. And also, we have the town hall website, marbellaexclusive.com, that will have the full scheduling. Do you like to take part in the ferias? Will you be out at Easter? And
God, yes. That's the highlights of my year. I mean, when I first I go to Seville mainly for Easter. And of course, when I first went, we were waiting around on street corners for hours on end, and I found it totally boring. I thought, this is awful. But once I started to learn what it was all about, I'm not Catholic, but I probably know more about the Catholic religion now than I do about my own. So yes, I mean, in the ferias, I like the village ferias rather than, you know, Malaga ferias, great. If you get to the smaller ones, you get a better feel and get more involved. And yeah, we dress up, and I love it. I love and why not? I mean, it's like you say, so many people live here and don't really get involved. They miss a lot of it, you know, and I don't know, why live here if you're not going to be part of it all?
I agree. I think a lot of people only live here because of the sun, and you really are missing out. And at the end of the day, you'll want to go back because you won't know what to do with yourself. I know what you can do, though. Keep yourself entertained. Just pick up a copy of Tony's brand new book. It's his 4th book published. This one is about Andalusia and all the myths and all the legends and some bits of reality. How can we get your book?
Amazon would be the easiest place. In fact, it's probably the only place at the moment. But it's available in paperback and ebook. So Amazon.com. Good old Amazon.
I look forward to reading it.
That's very
and then
kind.
we could do a book club, and then we could do a little review and tell Tony what we thought.
Right. Okay.
No, it sounds very fascinating, and I think there are a lot of us who really do like to know these things. And it's been great to meet the man behind the columns in the sewer.
It's lovely to be here as well.
Yes.
In this beautiful place as well.
Isn't it just?
Gorgeous,
isn't it
just?
Yes. If you just tuned in, we're at Velvet. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, hey.
Free taxi 4 times a month and 25% discount on your car insurance if you're the Zero Hero.
Yeah, I'm here in Marbella, but it says here I'm in La Canada.
If you haven't mastered the lingo, don't worry. Linear Director has a free GPS geolocator service that will come and find you. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night for another Marbella Now TV on Radio Television Marbella at 8 p.m. This program's always repeated also on RTV Marbella in the afternoon the next day, and of course you can catch up with all the programs from our website marbellanowtv.com. Thank you for joining us once again. It's lovely to have you with us. Take care of yourselves. Be nice to each other. Y hasta mañana.